Hey guys, welcome back to Captain Jasper. Today I thought I'd talk about how I ended up with Jasper and Alice. If you followed us on Insta for a while, you probably already know a bit of the story. But today I'm going to be telling the full story of how I ended up with two baby rabbits. To let you all get to know us a little bit better. Before we continue, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to join our crew. Let me take you back, almost 5 years ago, to 2017. I was studying an Access to HE course in animal management and was about to go on to the first year of my degree. I had two beautiful bunnies, a dwarf lionhead called Binky, who I'd had since 2009, and Stanley, a Flemish giant mix, who came to us in 2011. Life was pretty perfect until Binky sadly died on the 1st of June, leaving her partner Stanley alone. Stan had never been without a bunny companion and was getting extremely depressed and withdrawn. I knew I had to do something and act fast to find him another mate. Luckily, Stanley was extremely laid back and got on with anyone or any animal he met. I contacted various rescues and contacts within the animal industry, trying to locate a rabbit that was a similar age to Stan. Stanley was over 6 years old at the time, and due to being a giant breed with existing health issues, the vets were unsure how much more time he had left. This is why I was looking for another senior rabbit to join him in his final years. This is when I found June. June was an ex-breeding rabbit, and the facility that had her labelled her as aggressive, which is why they wanted to rehome her. When I first met June, she was the sweetest, shyest bunny ever. I couldn't fathom why they'd labelled her as aggressive. Maybe it was the fact they kept her in a tiny hutch and overbred her all her life. But she was never aggressive in the slightest to me. I agreed to take June, and they arranged for me to collect her the following week. I went and collected her and brought her home, and I put her in her own setup to settle in. Stan was a free roaming bun and extremely curious about everything, so he tried very hard to get a peek and say hello. Once June had settled in, I let June and Stan meet through the bars, and was doing the general bonding process. Everything was going really well, and they were flopping at the bars together and eating next to each other. 20 days into having June, and a couple of weeks or so into the bonding process, we had a huge surprise. June had given birth to two little boys at some point during the night on the 7th of July, 2017. I was in complete shock. Stanley had been neutered years ago. June and him had only been between the bars. Plus, a rabbit's gestation period is generally 28 days. So I was definitely confident Stanley was not the father. I tried to get hold of the facility I got June from, and finally got a very vague email back saying they had no idea how this could have happened. But another rabbit they still had there had just had a surprise pregnancy too. So they think a male bun had been accidentally put back with the females, and got June and this other rabbit pregnant. They offered to take June and the boys back, but I really didn't want them going back there, to have a terrible quality of life, and I'd already fallen in love with all three of them. I tried to probe more into June's history, and since I got her, I've been trying to get them to give me her medical records. To this day, I still don't have any information on June that they said they would provide, such as her date of birth, medical history, or even how many litters they made her have. I always found this very suspicious, that this facility, that will remain nameless as they've been shut down and taken over by a better company, didn't know the date of a rabbit they bred themselves, and that was born on the premises. They didn't even know June was accidentally pregnant, so it just kind of shows what kind of place it was. Unfortunately, I had to temporarily end the bonding between June and Stanley, so June could focus on raising her little boys. Stan was always trying to peek through the bars at her though, and they would regularly still talk through the bars. The first 3 weeks of the boys being born, they pretty much stayed in their nest box. But once they hit 3 weeks old, they began running around their room, and this is when Stanley first saw them. The first day he saw them running around, he was so excited and kept trying to get their attention. And he kept coming to me and telling me that there was something in there. From 3 to 12 weeks old, the boys and Stanley would talk through the bars, and June would flirt with Stan through the bars as well. Everything was going well until, unfortunately, when the boys started becoming fully mature and needing to be neutered, they actually became a bit aggressive towards Stanley and didn't want to speak to him anymore. This made Stan very upset. And I was like, oh no, what will I do if I can't bond everyone together? I'll have to get Stan another friend, and I'll have to have June and the boys in another group. It was stressful. But luckily, after they were neutered and able to go back in with their mum, their hormones had calmed down a lot, and they were interested in talking to Stan through the bars again. Stan was so determined to join this group, he would try every day to talk to them and befriend them. He was the sweetest little bun in the world, and I miss him so much. I finally managed to bond my quad in March 2018. It took 8 months from when they were born and then 5 months from when they were neutered. Bonding a quad was challenging, especially given the circumstances of 2 of the bunnies being infants, and having to wait until they were old enough to bond and their hormones be under control. But it was also the most rewarding bond I have ever done. Sadly, Stan passed away the day before the boys' first birthday, and we all still miss him terribly. But I'm so glad the boys were able to be raised and bonded to Stanley before he passed. He taught them so much that they still carry with them today. So that is how I ended up with 2 surprise babies that are going to be 5 this year. I honestly can't get my head around it. It feels like yesterday I found them in their little nest of fur and hay, and now they're fully grown adult rabbits. It's a scary thought. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.